Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8, and this is going to be my review for Episode 8, otherwise entitled The Fire Next Time. Obviously, spoiler for everything in this episode because this is officially the start of the next graphic novel. This was confirmed by Eric Wallace before the episode aired. He confirmed about maybe 3 or 4 hours before the episode aired, and it's pretty clear based off the end of the episode especially that this is the introduction of the new threat. Whether it's specifically the villain is another question, but it sets some stuff up and it's pretty damn threatening and scary. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below your general thoughts about this episode. What did you like? What did you dislike? And yeah, just your general opinions about it, and I guess maybe what you'll give it out of 10 if you want to do that. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you enjoyed the episode, just want to show your support, why not drop a like on the video to do all that? So last episode was the second interlude episodes. We only had 2, which was the Bart and Nora one and then last week's one. But last week had some relevant stuff with Barry working with Kramer to, get out of a bit of a pickle that they were in within CCPD. But Kramer does figure out that Barry is the Flash before he can actually reveal that to, her himself. Now, we also see Iris skipping through time sort of unexplainably with her eyes glowing green in the process like we've seen previously. There's nothing in regards to that in this episode. It's almost as if that never happened. So I'm not too sure if they were just using the previous episodes just to have Iris in them maybe, or just have some sort of stinger, but they're not in this episode, which I thought was a bit weird, but I prefer the stinger that they had, or the cliffhanger that they had at the end of this episode over another time sickness thing. Would have been, I think that what they did was much better. But overall, this episode surprised me so much in so many ways and made me sympathize for Jaco Burch. I want my money. If you told me that, whether it was just before the episode started or, just after the season 4 episode with him, I would go, you're an idiot. You're crazy. What are you doing? Get out of my house. What are you doing here? Why are you in here providing me with such weird information? But this episode redeemed the character so well and made me feel bad for him and also happy for him. And they connected it to Barry in such a personal way where I was like, that's so well done. Sure, it's not a perfect episode. It's not a 10 out of 10. But, I thought they did it in such a well done way that I was so emotional at points in this episode, and based off responses on Twitter that I saw just in general and also to me when I put out some stuff about it, it seems a lot of people did as well, which I think surprised everyone. But let's just jump into this episode and break it down because there is some stuff to talk about. So we start at the Irish pub that we are always at with Frost, just the general pub that we're at. And we meet this employee, well, I guess he is a dude, but employee called Stan, and he picks up a bar stool. He's just cleaning up and he has his hand severely burnt when he picks up this stool. And then he is attacked by some black floating cloud of sorts. It was really odd. We didn't actually get to see it from his perspective. We only saw it really from the perspective of this being when he saw Stan. Obviously, it must be, pretty damn freaky because he seemed pretty scared. Now, Barry does arrive to investigate this crime scene. We get to see Barry do some CSI work, and this was probably the most CSI stuff because the body stuff in this episode is a bit graphic. Some people might be turned off by it, but he arrives to investigate after an awkward morning with Iris where there's no real explanation. Iris knows, and of course Barry knows because he's the one being awkward around it, or just a bit weird, and I wasn't too sure what it was, but we just know that it's the start of February, and there's a lot of different things on the day, and all I really saw was doctor's appointment for Barry, I think on the 2nd or 3rd, and I was like, does Barry hate the doctor or something like that? But I was like, oh, what's going on here specifically? But that's actually revealed later on, which I thought they tied it together pretty damn well. But when we get there with Barry, we see the body is burnt to a crisp. Just, it's almost like it's burning from the inside, which also is a bit weird because there's nothing else burnt around the body. Nothing else is damaged by fire, as if a flamethrower hit her or something like that. It's almost as if, as I said, the body burnt from within and it was just contained within the body. But we learned that this Stan dude who worked at the bar, and obviously now he's burnt to a crisp, got into a fight with someone earlier on who wore a specific band's t-shirt, and Barry just thinks fire, band, meta, and Barry jumps to his phone to bring up a possible suspect. That is Jaco Burch, aka the Hotness. Now, obviously, I don't think in season 4 they referred to him as the Hotness. It was just post-crisis in that binder that Cisco had. He was called the Hotness in there. So anyway, Jaco Burch, we'll call him, or Jaco. that he's brought up. And obviously he's from all the way back in season 4, so this is the first time we're seeing him since then. But the witness that was at the bar just before this happened, she left and Stan was left there by himself. She confirms that Jaco was that person that had that fight with Stan. Now, speaking of workplace issues, there is a bit of workplace drama at Central City Citizen. I'm going to get through this quickly, where Allegra has said no to a writer's potential story, but that writer has gone to Iris and had it approved. Now, Allegra, of course, is feeling a bit undervalued due to that, but Iris motivates her to try and sort of like get more comfortable with the employees under her. Now, Allegra does take this co-worker who obviously they're not getting on at all. It's pretty much, yeah, we're just here because we have to be. Like, if I would not talk to this person at all if I did not have to, work in the same office as her. I think her name was Taylor, but they go to report on some like social influencer, and Allegra runs into like an old acquaintance from jail. And I thought it was going to be a bit more fiery, if you want to put it. But Allegra, after a bit of back and forth, decides to write an article on this, old acquaintance rather than what Iris tasked her with, which does annoy Iris initially, but Iris also ends up being happy with Allegra's profile on this person due to its quality. However, this ends up taking over this report that Taylor was going to do on this social influencer, which, nicks her off a bit. And I'm sure we'll see that continue and some ferocity around that. But I just wanted to get over that quickly because it's definitely the weakest part of the episode, but I think they're just trying to develop some stuff there. Whether it works moving forward is another question, but that's for future episodes, to decide. But back to the Jaco stuff and the main stuff for the episode, we do see Jaco at work where he is like security for the band. I think it was the band Lips, which was like a mock band of like Kiss. But I think in season 4 he wore a Kiss shirt, so maybe it was too expensive maybe to have Kiss and stuff. I'm not too sure what like the brand issues would be like that and like the rights issues, but they used Lips instead of Kiss just probably due to cost and having it on screen so much. I think, I'm not too sure. But we see that Jaco has a son who is called Harold. And I must say, the casting was pretty good. They look like they could be father and son, which I thought was pretty well done. But Harold is not interested in his father at all. He even calls him Jaco. He actually doesn't call him dad, which, I mean, if I called my dad he's just by his name, I don't know. I don't even want to think what would happen. I don't think my dad would be too happy if I started calling him by his real name. But the cops do arrive to arrest Jaco, of course, after the witness identified him, with the Flash arriving to help out once Jaco activates his powers when he sees that his son is at risk in his eyes, or at least his son's being taken away and he doesn't want that to happen. But, the Flash puts him out, but Jaco pleads to both not only his son, but also the Flash that he is innocent, that he didn't do what he's being accused of. He actually doesn't even know what happened, and that he's just overall innocent. And you see Barry sort of look back at his past when his dad was arrested for something he knew that he did not do. So pretty much there is all the motivation that Barry needs, is that, just that Jaco needs that belief, like there was no belief for Henry, outside of Barry. Now, Barry does meet with Cecile for some advice on the case, and Cecile doesn't really see much hope for Jaco based off his past, which I think is the general thought. I don't think that was too critical of, I don't think you can be too critical of Cecile saying, oh my God, you don't believe. I think there's just so much there, and she knows from her job in the past, who's got a good chance in court and who doesn't. But Barry is sticking to his gut and just, something is not right about this. And Barry wants Cecile to meet with Jaco and possibly read what's going on with him. Now, Cecile does see there is a bit of an ethical line there, reading her, a client's mind and stuff like that. Though you could really argue Cecile has crossed the ethical line a few times whilst working with Team Flash. So I don't know why the line was drawn specifically there. If it was going to save a dude, it's not like, whether they committed a petty crime where they might not even go to jail or something. It's not like it's like a parking ticket or something like that. It's a, murder, and whether this guy goes to jail for maybe the rest of his life or something like that. I think you can cross the line there, Cecile. I think that's fine. But when Cecile talks to Jaco, we learn what actually happened between, the last time we saw him in season 4 and now. And his son's mother wasn't the best, pretty much just goes missing all the time. So Jaco got his act together to get out of Iron Heights and raise his son. And Jaco explains why he and Stan, the victim, actually had that fight. And it was about I think it was a guitar that Jaco was selling that Stan was only going to give him like half the money for. But that was it. That's where the fight pretty much ended. And unfortunately for Jaco, he was just in the the wrong place at the wrong time just before Stan is murdered by this floating black cloud thing. So everything is just going against him. So this is going to make Barry's job a bit harder. which is just made even harder when Jaco escapes CCPD's, custody, which, come on, Jaco. I guess he just didn't think anyone was going to believe him. So I think you can sort of understand him just running away. Now, Jaco does end up confronting the witness that gave the information about the fight between himself and Stan, with her later being found burnt to a crisp like Stan's was soon by Flash and Frost. They find the body, with Frost not actually being able to put out the burning body, which normally with this fire situation, she would be able to. So there's some awkward or some interesting and just weird stuff going on just based off that. But Barry soon tests the evidence and finds out that the burn signatures are too exact, way too exact for it to be a pyrometal like, or a pyrometal with abilities like Jaco, because I think that was pretty much from the get-go. I think the fact that in the bar, there was no burn signatures anywhere else, even like a little bit on the floor, was a bit sus, because we see Jaco's powers and stuff like that, but sometimes they're just trying to find the person that fits it the quickest. But I think we could tell from the get-go that it wasn't Jaco. But I mean, I think the interesting thing is like, how does this meta kill people? Like, this person with this thing with the fire abilities, like, is it burned within, or is it just like a contained burn? I'm not too sure how exactly it works. I think we're going to see it probably happen in one episode going forward, and I think it's going to be pretty gnarly, hopefully. But I'm very curious to see how it happens to someone. But unfortunately for Barry, Team Flash just starts to doubt him and his beliefs on Jaco, with them bringing up the evidence against him, against Jaco, and pretty much Barry's complete lack of evidence outside of his overall belief. But of course, Barry has the exact example to use against them, which is, well, what happened with his father. All the evidence against Henry Allen, no one believing him except for Barry. There's the perfect example. And we do continue the connections between this case with Jaco and the past case with Henry Allen, when Barry sets up an evidence board like he had for Henry for all those years. And we learn that today exactly, that being February 1st, is Henry's birthday. So you can see why this is hitting hard so much for Barry, both just this case personally and just this day in general. Like we saw him at the beginning of the episode, being upset, and Iris and understanding but us not knowing why, and then we find out here. Very emotional, just this whole situation. But of course, Joe makes it even more emotional with that scene, and obviously just Joe pulling through with one of those classic Joe and Barry scenes, one of those classic Joe and Barry moments, and just being the backing and support that Barry needs. Like, you can always count on Joe. I think Joe only had 2 scenes in this episode. I think it was that one and the one at the end, and he carried them. Like, Joe just nails, Jesse L. Martin as Joe just nails it when he needs to, especially in these like more emotional and, reminiscing moments, if you want to call them as well. Now, lucky for, I guess, Barry and his case, but also just Jaco, Chester is actually able to compare evidence from the 2 burnt bodies. And I think it was nuclear fusion was the key similarity. I think that was the term that was used, which makes you go, what's nuclear fusion? Connections to that in the past, and fire, and maybe someone that was meant to return this season, maybe in just, a few episodes from now. Who could it be? Eddie? No, it could be Ronnie maybe, but we'll have to wait and see and wonder where that connects. I'm sure we'll find out soon. I hope it's not Ronnie going around and killing people if he's back alive, because that'd be not the best, reintroduction to someone we're led to believe is a hero, but you never know. But Barry needs to get that evidence down to CCPD to help out Jaco, but he is still after his son, and he ends up stopping the social service van that Harold is in, when he's on his way somewhere. Now, obviously, Jaco knows that, well, he thinks at the very least no one is going to help him. He doesn't know what Barry's doing behind the scenes and anything like that. So I can, as I said before, sort of understand why he is doing what he's doing, just because he thinks no one's going to believe him, but he knows he's innocent, but he still wants to help his son out and have a relationship with his son and everything like that. So I can see why he's doing what he's doing, because, if he, as I said before with the whole Cecile thing, I mean, if Jaco's charged, he's going to prison for life, he's not getting out. So he's pretty much just going, well, I've lost everything, got nothing else to lose. Now, Barry needs to stop Jaco before he can clear his name. Otherwise, Jaco will just have another charge against him for attacking CCPD, even if he has his name cleared for this murder. So regardless, he's probably going to prison anyway. With Flash and Frost arriving just in time, being able to convince Jaco there is evidence in support of him and to stop what he's doing. However, there are some earthquakes going on, which just adds to this episode, this last little bit, with sort of like mini volcanoes of sorts going off with lava shooting up. And this is due to the fact that Jaco draws his heat powers from the core of the earth, which opens up channels. So, you can see how emotional and just how much he was using his powers this episode. So there's a lot of channels there, which is pretty much turning Central City into its own little, own little like streets and avenues of, lava just to flow out. So of course, a lot of car tires are going to be deflated probably in a few minutes. Now, Barry actually does something pretty cool. He phases through the ground to open up channels for water to then connect with the lava and cancel it out. But this requires the heat to escape as well. And Jaco has to absorb the heat. Otherwise, there will be some, some toast and the people still get burnt regardless. So Jacob has to absorb the heat rather than send it out, which sort of makes him the hero in his son's eyes. So Jaco has his name cleared thanks to the evidence. And also he's got this relationship with his son where he's able to move on and just enjoy a happier life with him, which is great. But of course, the big thing is that the culprit is still out there and they're going to need something else due to all this evidence pointing to Jaco, but obviously not him, him not actually being the one who committed the crime, which obviously the end scene refers to, but we'll get to that in a second. Now, one of my favorite scenes of the episode, obviously I said before we had that Barry and Joe moment, which was very emotional, but one of the happier moments was just Barry and Joe reminiscing about Henry, even the story about the light beer and just like, well, if you want me to drink something heavier, you can buy it, Joe. Otherwise, we're still drinking light beer from now until whenever that is. So I did like that scene. I think especially Jesse or Martin as Joe just makes it feel really natural. It doesn't even feel like acting for the most part. So I really like that scene towards the end. Henry died all the way back in season 2. I guess it doesn't just feel that like it was that long ago because we have Jay showing up who was played by John Wesley Shipp as well. But yeah, it feels so weird. It was so long ago. There was so much season 1 stuff in this with the reminiscing of Henry and the connection to this case. Just felt so weird, but it was so good at the same time. But the end scene, the big cliffhanger for this episode, as well as just setting up what I would assume is for the next handful of episodes, because this is meant to be the start of the next graphic novel. Now, whether this threat that is killing people is the actual villain, that's another question. We don't know if this is the actual villain or if it's a product of whoever the actual villain is doing this thing. That's for us to wait and find out. We might get a hint at it next episode, or maybe we have to wait another episode or 2 after that. I'm not too sure. But we have Barry clearing the evidence board with all the Jaco stuff because Jaco's been cleared. There's no need for it anymore. And there's no other suspects due to various alibis. They weren't there, whether they're out of Central City or they weren't connected there, whatever it might be, or they're just actually in Iron Heights. So anyone else that could potentially, replicate fire powers or has them, there's no one there. So Barry, Chester, and Frost just try to connect the dots, with Barry asking Chester to eventually connect the 2 bodies, and I think was the nuclear fusion was the term used, to other bodies around the world, because there is a serial killer on the loose who isn't leaving much evidence behind for anyone to really, look at and track. So they've got to use their own scientific methods. Now, I guess the big question is, who's their next target? Why did they attack these 2 people in the bar? Is there a connection there? Or is it, I don't know. It's I can't pin it right now where the connection is, at least based off those 2 people in the bar, because the only person I can think of that worked in the bar was Chillblaine, and I don't think we know Chillblaine doesn't have fire powers unless this is Bizarro Chillblaine. I don't know, but I can't wait to see where this goes. I love a murder mystery. I love this. I love true crime stuff. This is right up my alley. But I still don't know specifically where it's going, unless it literally is just Ronnie because of the whole nuclear fusion drop, that name drop. So I can't wait to see where it goes. If you have any theories as to who it actually is, if there's any more of an interesting choice, let me know in the comment section down below. But yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes. But yeah, overall, this was better than last week's episode. It's probably maybe on par with episode 6 because I really enjoyed that episode as well. But I didn't think going into this episode I was going to enjoy it this much, and that it would lead into such an interesting story for the next few episodes afterwards, and also that I would connect to Jaco Burch in such a personal way. I guess using Barry as that personal connection as well definitely helped. But you use what you can use, and they did it really, really well in this episode. So I enjoyed the hell out of it. No real issues, minor nitpicks if I was going to do it. I enjoyed the episode pretty much for what it was. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below, your various opinions about everything we went over. I'm always curious to read what you guys are thinking, and any theories you have as well moving forward, especially around this mysterious black cloud that shoots fire, or at least burns people from the inside, or raises their temperature so they burn. I'm not sure exactly what it is, how you word it. But yeah, if you have any thoughts on theories around that, let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.